Welcome back to 15-Minute Discourse. You know the deal, you give us the sources, and we try to extract the core ideas. This time, we're diving headfirst into the metaverse. And wow, you've really gone all out. Articles, notes, even bits from Snow Crash, the book that actually gave us the term metaverse.
Looks like someone's been hitting the books.
Definitely ready to go deeper than just the buzzwords. So is the metaverse just a gamer's fantasy? Or is there something more substantial underneath all the hype?
Okay, so first, let's make sure we're all on the same page about what we're even talking about. The metaverse isn't just strapping on a VR headset. It's much bigger. It's this blend of technologies blurring the lines between, the physical world and the digital world. Think interconnected digital spaces, immersive experiences, information that's personalized just for you. It's a whole lot to unpack.
So it's not about escaping reality, it's about adding to it with this digital layer. What would that even look like in our everyday lives?
Well, imagine education, but without the limits of a physical classroom. Stanford is already running courses entirely in VR. Students can be right there in historical events, explore the human body from the inside, even do experiments in a virtual lab. The possibilities are pretty mind-blowing.
That's amazing. That could totally change how we think about education, making it more accessible and more engaging for everyone, no matter where they are.
Yeah.
But how do we get to this point? It feels like the metaverse kind of came out of nowhere.
Well, the word itself has been around for ages, but the way we understand it today is really the result of years and years of technological development. Think back to Second Life, those early virtual worlds. They gave us a glimpse of shared online experiences. But now, with the arrival of technologies like VR and AR, blockchain and AI, the metaverse is evolving at warp speed.
Second Life. I remember people were buying virtual land and building these digital empires back then. Is that still a thing?
Oh, it is. But on a scale that's hard to comprehend. We're talking about people spending more on virtual land than an average home in Manhattan. It's wild. And it's all possible because of blockchain, the technology that makes it possible to track ownership of digital assets securely and transparently.
So blockchain isn't just about cryptocurrencies. It's actually laying the foundation for a whole new way of owning things in the digital world.
Exactly. And then you've got NFTs, those digital certificates of authenticity. They allow you to verify ownership of unique virtual things like digital art, music, even virtual real estate and in-game items. It's fueling these virtual economies where people are actually making real money.
I still can't get over the fact that a virtual house design, the Mars House NFT, sold for $500,000. That really changes how we think about value and ownership in the digital age. You mentioned AI too. Where does that fit into all this?
AI is the force behind the scenes, shaping the metaverse, making it intelligent and responsive. It personalizes your experience, powers those virtual assistants you encounter, even creates dynamic environments that react to your actions. Basically, it's like having a virtual world that learns about you and anticipates what you need.
This is all fascinating, but I had to admit, there's a part of me that's a little uneasy. Every new technology comes with its own set of risks, right?
Yeah.
What are some of the potential downsides of the metaverse we need to be thinking about?
It's good to be cautious. The metaverse, for all its potential, definitely raises some serious ethical questions. And probably the most pressing concern is privacy. As our digital and physical lives become more and more intertwined, protecting our personal data becomes absolutely crucial.
Let's look like a surveillance state on steroids. Every move you make, every interaction you have in the metaverse could be tracked and analyzed. It's a pretty unsettling thought.
And it's not just about corporations or governments tracking our data. There's also the danger of cybercrime and bad actors exploiting the metaverse. We've already seen deepfakes used for malicious purposes, and it's likely these threats will only become more sophisticated. Remember that story about the finance employee who got tricked by an AI deepfake and transferred $25 million?
That's scary. It really shows how important it is to have strong security and to be aware of the risks.
Absolutely. We also have to think about the psychological and social impacts of the metaverse. Those immersive experiences can be incredibly engaging, but there's a risk of addiction and people escaping into virtual worlds. Spending too much time in the metaverse could have negative consequences for our mental and physical health.
It's like anything else, finding a healthy balance is key. But you also mentioned earlier that the metaverse could transform industries like healthcare and governance. Can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Take healthcare, for instance. We're already seeing virtual reality used to train surgeons and help patients with phobias. The metaverse could take this even further, offering remote consultations, personalized treatment plans, even virtual support groups, all easily accessible from anywhere in the world.
It sounds like the metaverse could really change how we approach healthcare, especially for people who don't have easy access to quality care. What about governance and politics? How could the metaverse impact those areas?
Imagine town hall meetings happening in virtual spaces, where people from all over the globe can participate in democratic processes no matter where they are physically located. The metaverse could also be used for public service announcements, educating people about important issues, even running virtual elections that are more secure and transparent.
It's fascinating to think that the metaverse could become a platform for global civic engagement and political participation.
Of course, there are potential pitfalls, like with any new technology. The metaverse could also be used for propaganda and misinformation, so making sure that information is accurate and trustworthy in these virtual spaces is super important.
This has been quite a journey so far. We've explored the history of the metaverse, the technology behind it, and the potential benefits and downsides. It's clear that the metaverse is a complex and rapidly evolving concept that could fundamentally change our world. But before we get too far ahead of ourselves, let's take a quick pause and recap what we've learned so far.
Sounds like a good plan. Let's remind our listeners of the key takeaways from this first part of our deep dive.
First off, the metaverse is all about blurring those lines between the physical and digital worlds. It's a network of digital spaces where people can interact with each other and with virtual environments in increasingly immersive ways.
And the metaverse is built on a convergence of technologies, virtual reality, augmented reality, blockchain, and artificial intelligence. Each one plays a critical role in creating those immersive, interactive, and intelligent experiences that define what the metaverse is all about.
It's got the potential to revolutionize all sorts of industries, from education and healthcare to business and entertainment. New opportunities for communication, collaboration, creativity, and commerce are popping up everywhere.
But we can't forget about the potential risks and challenges either. Privacy concerns, data security, ethical considerations, the possibility of addiction and escapism, and the potential for widening social inequalities. These are all issues that need to be addressed carefully.
It sounds like navigating the future of the metaverse will require a multi-stakeholder approach. Governments, corporations, and individuals all have a part to play in shaping its development and making sure that it benefits society as a whole.
Absolutely. The metaverse is ultimately a reflection of ourselves. It's a digital mirror of our values, our dreams, and our fears. The choices we make in the metaverse will have consequences in the real world, so it's crucial that we approach it with both enthusiasm and caution.
Well said. We've covered a lot of ground in this first part of our deep dive, but we're just getting started. In the next part, we're going to dig deeper into the ethical side of the metaverse and explore how we can shape its development in a responsible and beneficial way.
I'm looking forward to that conversation. There's so much more to unpack as we journey deeper into the metaverse.
Stay tuned, listener. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the metaverse.
Welcome back to 15-Minute Discourse. As we continue our deep dive into the metaverse, it's time to confront those ethical challenges head-on.
You're right, we touched on the risks, but let's go deeper into those ethical dilemmas. For example, in the real world, we have laws about our bodies and property. But in the metaverse, our avatars and virtual possessions become like extensions of ourselves. So where does that leave us legally?
Yeah, that's the big question, isn't it? Do we need a whole new legal system for the metaverse? It really feels like we're in uncharted territory here.
No kidding.
Some legal experts are starting to think so. They say we need to figure out how our existing laws apply in virtual spaces and think about what new legal frameworks we might need. Like, what happens if someone harasses or attacks another person's avatar? How do we even define that legally?
Yeah, it makes you think about harm and consent in virtual environments, how those concepts translate. And what about intellectual property? If I create something in the metaverse, who actually owns it?
It's tricky because ownership in the digital age is already complicated, but the metaverse takes it to a whole other level. You've got user-generated content, AI-generated stuff. It's so easy to copy and distribute digital assets. We desperately need clear guidelines on intellectual property rights in these virtual spaces.
Sounds like we're stepping into a legal and ethical minefield with the metaverse. But amidst all these challenges, are there any positive societal impacts that we could see?
Absolutely. One area with huge potential is education. Just imagine students stepping into immersive learning environments, traveling to ancient civilizations virtually, experiencing scientific concepts firsthand. It would be like taking field trips without ever leaving the classroom.
That would be a game changer. Students learning about the Roman Empire by actually walking through a virtual recreation of ancient Rome, Or dissecting a human heart in a virtual lab. No mess, no ethical concerns. Amazing.
Exactly. And the metaverse could make education accessible to students with disabilities or those in remote areas. It could break down those geographical barriers.
That's incredible. It's a powerful example of how technology can make opportunities more equal.
It really is. And let's not forget about the possibilities in healthcare. We're already seeing VR being used for training surgeons and treating phobias. But the metaverse could take us so much further with things like remote consultations, personalized treatment plans, even virtual support groups, all easily accessible from anywhere.
Wow, that could be life-changing for people who don't have access to specialized care. It sounds like the metaverse could improve things in healthcare in a really big way.
I think so. And what about social good? The metaverse could be a way to connect people from different cultures, helping them understand each other better. It could even be used to raise awareness about important social issues.
It's interesting. It sounds like the metaverse presents both risks and a real chance for positive change. But how do we ensure that these positive possibilities actually happen while mitigating the potential risks?
That's where responsible development becomes crucial. We need to be proactive and intentional about how we design and govern the metaverse. We have to prioritize things like ethical considerations, inclusivity, and accessibility from the very start.
So it's not just about the technology itself, it's about the values that guide its development, right? It's like we need to embed those ethical considerations into the foundation of the metaverse.
Exactly. We need to ask ourselves, what kind of future do we want to create in the metaverse? Do we want a virtual world that just replicates all the inequalities of our physical world? Or do we want something more just, more equitable, and sustainable?
That's such an important question, and it makes us think beyond the technology itself to the societal impacts of our choices.
Right. The metaverse is a powerful tool. Like any tool, it can be used for good or for bad. The decision ultimately lies with us.
So how do we ensure that the metaverse is used for good? What concrete steps can we take to make sure its development benefits humanity?
Well, the first step is having open and honest conversations about the ethical implications. We need to bring together a variety of perspectives: technologists, policymakers, ethicists, educators, everyday users to discuss the potential benefits and risks.
It's about having a global conversation, making sure everyone has a voice in shaping the metaverse.
Absolutely. And from those conversations, we need to establish ethical guidelines and standards for how these technologies are developed and used. These guidelines should cover things like privacy, data security, accessibility, inclusivity, and content moderation. Think of it as laying the ethical groundwork for a responsible metaverse.
So it's like creating rules for the metaverse, similar to the rules that govern our physical world. And those rules need to be clear, enforceable, and designed to protect all users.
That's a great way to put it. And just as in the physical world, enforcing those rules is critical. We need to hold corporations and governments accountable for their actions in the metaverse, ensuring they prioritize the well-being of users and society as a whole.
Accountability and transparency, those are key to building trust and fairness in the metaverse. But with technology developing so rapidly, it sounds like a pretty daunting task.
It definitely won't be easy, but it's a challenge worth tackling. The metaverse has the potential to be a force for good in the world, but only if we're mindful of the risks and proactive in shaping its development.
Earlier you mentioned inclusivity and accessibility. Can you talk more about why those concepts are so critical in the metaverse?
It's essential to ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, their abilities, or their socioeconomic status, has equal access to the opportunities that the metaverse offers. This means addressing the digital divide, making technology affordable, and designing experiences that are inclusive and accessible to people with disabilities.
So it's about creating a level playing field in the digital world, making sure the metaverse doesn't become a playground just for the privileged few.
Exactly. We can't just assume that everyone will benefit equally. We have to be proactive in creating a digital world that is truly inclusive and equitable.
This makes me wonder, what role does education play in preparing future generations to navigate the metaverse responsibly and safely?
Education is absolutely key. We need to start teaching digital literacy and critical thinking skills early on, giving young people the tools to distinguish fact from fiction, think critically about the information they encounter, and make responsible choices online. It's about equipping them to be informed and responsible citizens in this digital age.
So it's more than just teaching them how to code or use a VR headset, right? It's about giving them a deeper understanding of the metaverse and its implications, helping them understand the ethical side of their actions within it.
Precisely. We need to help them develop that internal compass in the digital realm, encouraging empathy, compassion, and a sense of shared responsibility in these virtual spaces. It's about fostering those values that are so important in both the physical and digital world.
This conversation has really highlighted the need for a fresh approach to education, one that addresses the unique challenges and opportunities of the metaverse. It's about rethinking how we learn and teach in this new digital landscape.
I couldn't agree more. The metaverse gives us this incredible opportunity to rethink education, to embrace new technologies and approaches that prepare students for the future.
You've mentioned several times that the metaverse is a reflection of ourselves. Can you elaborate on that? What does that mean in the context of all these ethical questions and the need for responsible development?
Well, at the end of the day, the metaverse is a human creation. It's built by humans, for humans.
Yeah.
The values, the biases, the aspirations that we bring to the metaverse will inevitably shape it and its impact on society. If we approach it with greed and selfishness, it will likely reflect that back to us. But if we approach it with compassion, with empathy, with a genuine desire to create a better world, then the metaverse holds the potential to be truly transformative.
That's a powerful message. It reminds us that we have a responsibility to shape the metaverse, that our choices and actions have real-world consequences.
That's right. The future of the metaverse isn't predetermined. It's something we're creating together, bit by bit. Every choice we make, every action we take contributes to what it will become.
Yeah.
We have the power to create a metaverse that embodies the best of humanity. But it takes conscious effort, collaboration, and a commitment to those ethical principles.
This second part of our deep dive has really opened my eyes to the ethical complexities of the metaverse and the urgent need for responsible development. But I feel like we've only scratched the surface. There's so much to explore, especially the concept of digital identity and how it affects our sense of self, community, and belonging in this increasingly blurred reality.
You're right, that's a topic full of fascinating questions and potential pitfalls. I'm looking forward to diving into that conversation with you on our final segment.
Don't go anywhere, listener. We'll be right back to continue our deep dive into the metaverse. And we're back for the final part of our metaverse journey here on 15-Minute Discourse. We've talked tech, we've talked ethics, but now things are getting really meta as we dive into digital identity.
It's a topic that really gets to the core of what it means to be human in this increasingly digital world. Like, who are we in the metaverse? Is our digital self an extension of our real self, or is it something else entirely?
That question has been on my mind throughout this whole deep dive. In the metaverse, we can create these avatars, choose how we look, even build entire personas. Does this free us from the limits of our physical bodies? Or does it kind of trap us in new ways?
It's a real paradox, isn't it? The metaverse gives us this incredible opportunity for self-expression and reinvention that we just don't have in the physical world. You can explore different sides of yourself, experiment with different identities, express yourself in ways that you might not feel comfortable doing in real life.
It's like trying on all these different masks at a virtual masquerade ball, trying to see which one feels most authentic.
Yeah.
But does that actually make us more authentic? Or are we just creating this carefully curated digital facade?
That's the debate, isn't it? Some people believe that our digital selves can be just as real and meaningful as our physical selves. After all, we put time and effort into creating those avatars. We build relationships in virtual worlds. We express ourselves in ways that feel genuine, even if it's all happening through a screen.
I get that. I've made really close connections online, people I feel like I know better than some people I see in person. But there's always that question in the back of my mind. Are they really who they say they are? Is there a real person behind that avatar, or am I just talking to a carefully constructed digital persona?
It's a valid point. The anonymity and the ability to curate our online personas create both opportunities and challenges. It can help people be more vulnerable and connect authentically, but it can also be used for deception. Building trust in the metaverse is tricky.
So how do we navigate this whole digital identity thing? How do we create authenticity and trust in a world where appearances are so easily manipulated?
Transparency is a big one. The more open and honest we are about who we are online, the less room there is for misunderstanding and deception. It's also important to remember that our digital identities aren't fixed. They can evolve and change over time, just like we do in the real world.
It's like a continuous journey of self-discovery, right?
Yeah.
Figuring out who we are in both the digital and physical worlds is kind of exciting and scary at the same time. But what about our sense of community? Will the metaverse bring us closer together, or will it isolate us even more?
Honestly, it has the potential to do both, and that's what makes it so fascinating. On the one hand, it creates these incredible opportunities for building global communities based on shared interests, values, or goals. Imagine virtual gatherings where people from all over the world can connect, breaking down geographical and cultural barriers.
That's a pretty amazing vision of a more connected world. But, and we've talked about this before, there's also the risk of the metaverse becoming an echo chamber, a place where people only interact with those who already agree with them, which could just reinforce existing biases and divisions.
That's a real concern and one we have to address. We've seen how social media can create those filter bubbles. We need to be proactive about building inclusive and diverse communities in the metaverse, encouraging interactions between people with different viewpoints.
It's not just about connecting online. It's about connecting with people who are different from us, who challenge our thinking and make us see the world in new ways. That diversity of thought and experience is essential for a healthy metaverse.
Couldn't agree more. The metaverse has this incredible potential to build empathy and understanding, but only if we actively use it to connect with people from diverse backgrounds.
This deep dive has been incredible. We've explored so much the potential of the metaverse, the ethical dilemmas, how it could impact society. It feels like we're standing at the beginning of a new era, where the lines between reality and virtuality are getting blurrier every day.
We're definitely at a turning point. The metaverse is still in its early stages, so the choices we make now will have a huge impact on how it evolves. We need to approach it with a sense of wonder and excitement, but also with a healthy dose of caution.
Throughout this whole conversation, you've stressed the importance of responsible development. What does that actually look like in practice? How can we, as individuals and as a society, shape the metaverse in a way that benefits everyone?
It starts with recognizing that the metaverse isn't some inevitable force. It's something we're creating. We have the power to influence its design, how it's governed, and the impact it has. We need to prioritize ethical considerations, inclusivity, and sustainability right from the get-go.
So it's not enough to just let it happen. We need to be actively involved, guiding it in a direction that aligns with our values and our hopes for the future.
Exactly. We need to talk openly about the ethical implications of the metaverse, involving diverse voices from all walks of life. We need clear guidelines and regulations that protect privacy, data security, intellectual property. And we need to invest in education so people can navigate the metaverse safely and responsibly.
It sounds like a huge undertaking, something that requires collaboration and a shared vision.
It is. The metaverse is a shared space, and its success depends on our willingness to work together to create a digital world that's equitable, sustainable, and enriching for everyone. It's a big challenge, but I believe we're up to it.
This has been an amazing exploration of the metaverse here on 15-Minute Discourse. We've gone from its history and technology to the ethical questions and the potential impact on society. And it feels like we've only just scratched the surface.
The metaverse is a constantly changing landscape, full of possibilities and challenges. It's a journey of discovery, and we're all just taking the first steps.
Before we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with this thought. The metaverse isn't just a technological playground. It's a reflection of who we are. The choices we make in the metaverse will have real-world consequences, shaping the future for ourselves and for future generations.
So as we enter this uncharted territory, let's do it with a sense of responsibility, with a commitment to inclusivity, and with a willingness to engage in open and honest conversations about the challenges and opportunities ahead.
That's a great note to end on. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the metaverse, please like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Until next time, keep asking questions, keep learning, and keep exploring the world of ideas.